What is up, guys? It's your boy Grant here with the Groovy Files. Today I'll be talking about, well, first, what's up? It's your boy Grant here with the Groovy Files. Today I got my main man Jay Trent with me,
What up?
and today we'll be talking about the Minnesota, the Minnesota Timberwolves series versus the Lakers, and the Lakers' future going forward. Now that they are down 3-1, knock on wood, if these things come back, I'm gonna be mad as fuck. But we move. Um,
Well, you see, I said that maybe we could be
I,
patient, but
I
I
have
know you
bad
wanted to.
news.
I
No,
know
no,
you
no,
wanted to.
no, no, no,
Nah,
no.
you got something you want to get off your chest, man. I understand.
All right. So first things first, and I want people to understand something. I think, and somebody, I saw somebody say this, and I think I agree now. There is no such thing in today's NBA. It's very hard for the best play. You can't go with best player versus best team as much as you used to go to with it. Maybe in college, but not now.
Yeah, I
I think
do
that's one of those shit I
think.
kind of want to. I feel like I think they have to. And I feel like this. It it depends, but I will say more times than not, I probably pick the best team over the best player at any given instance. For the team with a variable that you can consistently generate on a nightly basis.
I think it's less. It's not as much of a having the best player. It used to be having the best player is a deal breaker because you're defaulting, but I saw where somebody was saying it feels like it's more of a team is only as strong as its weakest link. So
That's more plausible.
I saw someone say it's like, for example, looking at the series between Denver and the LA Clippers, they were saying it's less about, oh, Denver has Jokic, they have the best player in the series, and it's more about, are the back end rotation guys from which team are going to show up.
Yeah, and I feel like with Minnesota, the big thing for them this series is that they're not really playing. They're not playing any that many guys that aren't adding anything that they really don't need. Like they really need. Like I feel like this. I have some critiques on Mike Conley and his age stuff, but his play or like his level of play isn't really loud, if that makes sense, but not in a bad way. More of a look. If I have a bad performance, I think we're gonna be all right. Versus with the Laker team, who all relies on straight shot making and offense, you are basically begging for somebody to get a rebound or get a board or well, I mean that's the same thing, but get a board or you get or play defense or get out in transition or things of that nature. So I think the big kind of topic points for me are that yes, I think people underrated the Timberwolves, but I'd argue that more people overrated the Lakers than they underrated the Timberwolves.
Okay, so I will say, just for me, I I did pick the Lakers to win this
I did,
series,
I did too.
and it is less of, I don't think that I overrated them. I think I did. I think I wasn't expecting this level of a jump from Anthony Edwards more than anything. I feel like that's the biggest difference to me based on what I've seen so far. He's been a lot better in the half court offense at making quick decisions. And I felt like that was something that kind of he's something that he struggled with early on. And I kind of gave the Lakers the edge, even though they don't the Lakers are a smaller team. They play smaller. But I felt like, that defense being able to switch is going to be able to create mismatches offensively.
I so here's kind of my hypothesis, and say, well, Minnesota has proved it. Minnesota, the type of team they are, their offense may not be their offense. Their offense. Make no mistake. If their defense is on, I'm a firm believer that they can win any single game. I
Hmm.
mean it. Like from a toughness standpoint, from just a size to rebound to grit, they rarely play anybody that does not put in a mass amount of effort on the boards and defensively.
Hmm.
I think my big winners for this series so far are definitely Julius Randle. Before I get
Hmm.
to Ant, I'm gonna go Julius Randle. And here's why.
Hmm.
All this series or all the talks about him showing up and man, if he guard Luka or he guarding this player, he's gonna get cooked. Julius Randle has showed y'all niggas. That nigga done showed up. That nigga done showed up defensively on the offensively, all that type of stuff. And the player, and I think their path, I think a lot of people weren't counting them in these conversations when it came
Hmm.
to the Timber. They thought that was just and. But
Hmm.
Julius Randle is still a good basketball player. Like, don't get it twisted. I think he getting traded or people making kind of these proclamations about Minnesota early in the season. Uh, People kind of forgot. Like that's still an all NBA level player.
Yeah. See, I think it's the fact that um when when the trade went down, they traded Karl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. I feel like what most the path to success for this roster construction for Minnesota took a couple of things. One, Julius Randle is the type of player that you want to add to that group because losing the spacing from Cat, Julius Randle provides some of that. He provides some ability to create offensively without needing a lot of space.
Yes, he can really
And
operate.
that has benefited Minnesota's offense. And on top of that, something else that they've been able to do
Oh,
is
sorry, man. Hold on.
okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say defensively, Julius Randle has been able to hold his own in these matchups because he's got the strength to be able to the strength and he's not dealing with a lot of quickness in terms of his matchup, so he's been able to stay in front of guys.
Yeah. So that was the big thing I thought is like he was the obvious X factor. Oh my God, this allergies thing. Uh, he was the
It's all
obvious.
good.
He was the obvious X factor in the series. But what player would you guess has only 6 turnovers this series?
Um, is that Anthony Edwards?
Yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I think he has the least amount of turnovers out of any ball handler this series, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm,
which is
that's
crazy
interesting. No, for
because
for sure,
the
for sure.
dis- the decision, like And that was my big thing this season. Like the type of player Ant is as a shooter, and Lord have mercy, as a shooter, but also as your team's main scoring option, and you kind of think, damn, watching him, this is ridiculous. But watching him last season in these playoffs and how bad he was when it came to making these decisions, wrong-headed shots, he just he's just ridiculous now. Like
Hmm.
like
Um, so-
he does not look like a player that had. It's a night and day level player.
mhm. I think something else may have been that may be undervalued in the grand scheme of things when looking at these playoff teams in the West is Minnesota might have the most they might have the most lineup versatility of the playoff teams in the West. Matter of fact, I think it'll be an interesting series if Houston can beat Golden State and we can get a if we could get if we could get a Houston Minnesota series, the lineup combinations that each team can put out there, that could lead to some very interesting matchups because I want to see it'll be like a chess match of sorts just to see how those two teams match up with each other because they have the ability to deploy so many different lineup combinations because you can both teams have a double big lineup that they could run. Both teams could play small if they felt the need to. Both teams can just go all out on switching on defense and get out in transition. I feel like that would be an interesting matchup to see. That's, assuming those teams win the series, which I don't think it's safe to assume, not at this point.
Yeah. I feel like the underrated thing about Minnesota is that everybody has keyed in on their offense all season. Like,
Hmm.
man, what are they gonna do about this offense and everything like that? But at the same time, they have a game that translates the most to a playoff setting out of a lot of teams in the West, and that's defense and boards. If you
Hmm.
got guys that can crash the glass or and play defense, you can come back from anything. And this is one person I want to give credit to. I want to say this. Ant, as a shooter, is ridiculous. Has had a historical season with.
Hmm.
I think he's the second best. He is quite literally the second best 3-point shooter in the league behind Steph Curry.
Yeah, I think he led the league in uh made threes this year.
That's another thing. But also from just being a all around level talent, Ant has showed himself he could be a playoff riser, showed himself that, hey, I don't care who we playing against, I ain't ducking no fades. But I also want to give a lot of credit to the rest of the Minnesota Timberwolves supporting cast and Chris Finch.
Hmm.
Um, one thing in Jay McDaniel and Dante and Gobert and everything like that. Specifically McDaniels.
Hmm.
McDaniels said for the when they won game one, that nigga said, and I'll quote, look, man, when Jackson Hayes ain't on the floor, they ain't got nobody taller than me. So you know what? I'm gonna do the smart thing and just take advantage of that.
Yeah, gets it
Like,
around. Yeah,
like,
and it doesn't help that Jackson Hayes has made it very difficult for the Lakers to keep him on the floor.
yes. Like they're out, he's out, like Minnesota is basically out physically, out physic is using physicality and size and just being more gritty to win the series. Yeah, they might not have the shot making the Lakers have, but they got everything else.
Hmm.
Which takes a pivot to my next topic is obviously there's a lot of things the Lakers have done wrong in this series, but the big thing is just the shot making just has not been the offense. Of course, the defense looks bad, but the offense is flying under the radar how bad it is. And I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
I think the big thing for me is that type of team, and with the amount of playmakers that you have, it kind of makes no sense how bad a lot of the screen setting has been, or you don't really have a really good roller. But also, not put it like this. I think I think Laker fans are doing this thing where they're kind of putting all the defensive issues on one player, whereas it's really a collective thing in unison where how bad
Hmm.
the situation has been. Um, I can tell you right now, I don't think a Luka Austin Reeves backcourt is sustainable long term unless you build a front court that's pretty damn good when it comes to crashing and defending.
I
Um,
was gonna say like I was gonna say what kind of front court construction are you looking for?
so I think the Mavericks. Hold on, Sage. Um, I think the Mavericks had the correct mentality or the correct construction. For example,
Hmm.
you had who was their wing man? I'm trying to remember, but
So the lineup it was Luca, Kyrie, Derrick Jones, PJ Washington, Derek Lively.
yes, like you need a front court that can defend, get boards, and multiple lob threats. Um, and
Hmm.
also the bench was underrated too. Now, granted, they just got their head cracked by the Celtics, but that's the Celtics. But my big thing is
Yeah.
going forward, if Luka is going to be the engine to the offense, every other focus has to be getting him a second option and covering up his faults with defense. Nobody is absolving Luka of his defensive woes, but if he is the primary offensive playmaker, um, everybody else has to pitch in everywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So going forward, I feel like the Lakers have a lot of tough decisions to make. Not really tough, but I think the Lakers had a lot of decisions to make this offseason where you have a pretty flexible roster in terms of contracts, but obviously priority number one is a center, preferably a lob threat. But the second thing is considering how things are going around the league, I really wonder what's going to happen with the disgruntled stars winning out.
Hmm. So so is that the path though? Do you just wait for a disgruntled star?
My thing is it depends because I want to see the level of player you can pair with Luca, but also I want to see the level of player you can. Really good question.
Because it
Because
just feels like I guess just my thought process is feeling like waiting for a disgruntled star is kind of it's
it's a volatile thing.
yeah. Yeah, because it's like, you never know who becomes available. You never know like what type of fit that is and all of that. Even the level of star or the type of star that you want to pair with a player like Luca.
I feel like securing him. Like I'm gonna say this right now. I like Austin, but that's not a co-star. That's like
Yeah,
a third.
I agree. I agree.
That's a third option on a really good championship team. That's not a third option on a team that aspires to. I'll put it like this. That's not a third. That's not a co-star. A co-star is more
Hmm.
somebody that kind of Definitely somebody that can run the fort when Luka's having a down game or the second option on the team or something like that. But my big thing is with 2026 coming up, and we know how many players are on the block, well, in free agency. So my big thing is what happens with that, which is something we have to wait and see. But people are kind of saying Giannis, and I'm kind of like, I think he's going to have to get shipped out and traded due to the amount of due to how bad of a situation the Bucks are in. I feel like he has to be traded, and they got to
Mhm.
get some sort of return for him. But
See,
hey,
okay, but this is kind of on the other side of that. To me, I don't know what team. I don't know if a team is going to be able to meet the asking price for the Bucks. That would I don't know if a team will be able to meet the asking price for a player as good as Giannis hitting the market because you're not going to be able to trade Giannis for pennies on the dollar and live with that. That's going to be it's already going to be difficult for them to bounce back from this. But if you trade Giannis for what's considered to be a light return,
you are fucking
yeah,
you're cooked
they'd
for
be
years.
they're in a very tough situation in that case.
Like I don't know the biggest possible like the Brooklyn return would probably make the most sense.
Mm,
However, the thing about that is I can see a situation where Giannis says, "Hey, I want to stay," and the organization is like, "Yeah, we love you, but we have to do what's best for the org, and we're not gonna be compete anytime soon. So we can trade you to a destination that you like,
hmm
but you're not gonna stay here because we need to return that bad." So
hmm
my whole thing is, if you're Giannis, I mean, like if you're a team, I mean, I'm looking at the book. I mean, I'm looking at the Knicks. The OKC thing looks good on paper because of the haul of picks, but the amount of protections kind of make me cautious.
See, my thing is you don't want to overdo. I feel like you don't really want to overdo it with pick equity just because picks have to become players at some point.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I do think a haul for a player like Giannis needs to be pick forward because I think Milwaukee needs to be pivoting towards a full rebuild.
Yes.
So it has to be, it needs to be pick forward, but it can't just be that, if that makes sense.
Yes. It. You kind of need some young assets in there, like young players. It ain't gotta be like the next level star, but your youngest assets is Kyle Kuzma and KPJ. That's
Hey
not
man,
good.
that's you forgetting AJ Green, bro.
AJ Green as well. Excuse me. So that's a big thing for me. But obviously, Giannis and Luca is a pairing that I think people are want to see. I don't think it will happen off the
Hell, I
fact
don't
that
want to see it.
I don't want to see it because I feel like that's too predictable. I feel like I feel like Luca is gonna get paired with a guard or a wing more than he is with a big. That's kind of my hot
Do
take.
you do you think that's ideal though, or do you think a big would be better?
Um, you kind of I think Luca would prefer somebody to if the big outside like Jokic. I feel like if the I feel like he wants a co-star that can run the offense while he's on the floor, while he's off the floor. Or that's what I would want if I was him. Now, granted, if it's Giannis or Jokic, like obviously nobody complaining, it's Giannis and Jokic. But I feel like a secondary ball handler that's a shooting guard or a wing, I feel like that would be ideal. Or like that would be a more realistic fit due to
Yeah, I think just saying, oh yeah, we can trade for Jokic or we can trade for Giannis, that does feel a bit it feels a bit too much like wishful thinking
home run
because you
ish.
you I mean, and I know teams are capable of, taking home run swings and all of that, but you kind of need um you kind of want to have like at least some you want a more measured approach because you have to feel like you don't want to feel like you put you in a position like Miami where it's like, okay, well, if we don't get this big star, we really ain't got no plan.
Yeah, I'm kind of like at this point, if you're the at this point, I feel like if the Lakers, you don't have to get a co-star immediately after this offseason, but I do think there has to be a center, really good center depth and a front court that can really hold their own.
Yeah, I would like to see um not just fans of the Lakers, fans of any team to be like, what is your team's plan for the offseason that doesn't say, oh, trade for Giannis or whatever. Like
I feel
be
like those.
more be more measured and tell me like figure out what is a path to building a team that can win a title.
Now,
Even if it's not next year, if it's in the next couple of years, how do you go
now
about that?
here's a trade idea that I think would not be bad. And I know
Hmm.
niggas gonna look at me crazy.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna say this. In the event the Memphis Grizzlies blow it up and tear it down, I would
Hmm.
not I would not be super off put with pairing Luca with Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, I figured you would say
As long
Jaren.
as long as the center situation is good. Like,
Hmm.
do you think a Luca, Jaren, Nick Claxton trio could work,
Mm.
or do you think Knicks is the odd man out?
Um, I mean, I think that mm, I'm not. I'm not a huge Nick Claxton guy. I do think he could work in an offense running, pick and roll with Luca. Like there's no need to overthink that. But I think that could work. But you'd really be counting on the spacing from Jaren. Like you become very dependent on that in that case.
Yeah. Uh, what about Luca and Jakob Pertl?
Hmm. So Jakob Poeltl is less of a, traditional like rim running big.
Yeah,
He's more similar to, let me think. I think Jakob Poeltl would be a nice complement
I definitely don't
to.
think he's a co-star. I just think
Yeah,
he's more of
yeah. I
a
was like, as a piece to add to your roster, yes. But if you feeling like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Luca and Jakob Poeltl, you're like, no, that team is that team not getting it done.
yeah. That's not a. I don't think he's a co-star. I'm thinking of players who I would start at the five with Luca.
Got you. I got you. Yeah, I think it could work.
The thing,
Any NBA caliber starting center can work with Luka Doncic.
the difficulty in building around Luca is the fact that outside of a big, the wing he's playing with has to be. It gotta be. You're basically, if you're playing, if Luca is your one, you're basically forcing everybody to play off the ball in some capacity because he's not gonna
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. No, he's
Which
not.
I
And
get.
honestly, you don't want him to
Yeah,
because you
because
think about it, like you need his playmaking, you need his vision, like so. Yeah, ideally, you need guys that are comfortable without the ball.
so I'm thinking like man, I wish D Book was available.
Not for y'all, he ain't.
I'm just thinking of the shooting guards that would be available. or wings?
Um,
Or do you just
how high up are you aiming? I mean, clearly you starting with Devin Booker. You clearly aiming pretty high, but
I would be fine with the roster not having a co-star, but you gotta go full blown defense 2 through 4, 2 through 5,
hmm.
which I think is doable.
Yeah, it's doable when you got an engine like Luca. Yeah, it's doable. It's doable.
So that's an interesting thing. But my final question is this. Um, Austin Reeves as a trade piece. What does a Austin Rui one player and a pick get you?
Um, Unfortunately, you kind of have to hope you need somebody to really value Austin Reeves.
That's the question. Because I don't think
I don't think Rui is going to be much more than salary in that
yeah,
move. Like
yeah,
teams will not. I don't think Rui is going to be valued that highly as a trade piece.
yeah, I kind of agree. Um, that's the thing. The Lakers have a lot of flexibility, but the only way you can build up the roster is probably outside of like a free agent. Right now, the only way to build up the roster is that people get their stock up and you get your trade value up and then trade people.
Hmm.
But I sure think there'll be
That's
some
kind of
interest.
I do think that that creates kind of a tricky situation though because especially with you feeling like next year is year one, like legitimately year one of the Luca era for the Lakers. So you kind of need to be taking like solidified steps toward contention. So is it worth it going into the season being like, hey man, we just got to build these guys' trade value up?
Yeah, I kind of get that. So it's just kind of in a weird spot.
Yeah, for sure.
But hold on. But yeah, it's a very weird spot they're in. But it's a good spot because like it's Luca, and you never know who's gonna
Yeah, I
come
mean,
along.
if you got Luka Doncic on your roster, you're really not you're not in bad shape. Like you're not. Like
So,
he's just like he's just that good.
so my question is, do you have a Laker hot take for the future?
Mm, I don't know if it's I don't think I have a hot take honestly. Um, I think Luka Doncic as your centerpiece is a clear path to contention for the next 10 years.
Yes.
So I think this next offseason, and we talking like the season is over. I know you're assuming the series is over because Lakers fan and whatnot. But if this offseason is going to be pivotal in terms of where do we go as far as constructing a team that is going to contend.
And I would say
Because if you got Luca on your roster, you will be seen as a title contender. Like
yes.
you will be measured up to that.
And I'm gonna say this, and I saw people say, well, uh Luca has a lot to prove to this franchise. I'm gonna say this. We have to prove to him that we can build a roster that can compete because if things don't go marginal in a marginal direction this offseason,
It is a pivot point.
it's a very big pivot point. So you could probably have a down season next season, I guess. But 2026 or the 2026-2027 season, shit has to change immediately. Like
So,
you got to be ready
so
to compete by then.
so coming into this offseason, Luka is extension eligible.
Yes.
So this is kind of this is kind of where that pivot point starts, where it's like obviously you don't think you're not expecting Luka to be like, nah, I actually want to be traded. Like I'm sure that's not going to happen, but you want to be proactive in
Yes.
trying to build a roster that's ready to contend.
So I'm assuming that we secure a center fairly quickly. Um,
Do you think it's just the Mark Williams trade package? You think it's just Dalton Connect and a first and whatever else salary to get a big?
uh, I don't think Mark Williams is gonna be the big.
No, I'm not saying it's Mark Williams. I mean the Mark Williams trade package.
Something similar, but for a better player.
Yeah, yeah. Because the reason I was asking is because I was like, so you basically say like Dalton Connect as the young piece, a first round pick, and whatever salary you need. That will get you a starting caliber center. I just, how much salary you want to send out kind of determines, what kind of player you're getting.
Yeah, I agree. Because and basically, if you're the Lakers, you the center you want is somebody that could definitely catch lobs and somebody that can play defense and get boards. I think those are the
Mm,
two non-negotiables. And I don't
yeah,
think if I think if the center does not have those two things, it is not the center for us to pair with Luka.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
I think that's reasonable.
so that's a kind of a big question for me. But I'm more interested to see what they do with the four spot more than anything.
Hmm.
Because, LeBron got one more year on the books.
Hmm. A lot of money, by the way.
On on
But
top
I
of
mean, it's LeBron James. You do that, but
but it's gonna be an interesting offseason. I think a lot of things depend on who wins the championship.
Mhm. I got a funny question for you.
Talk to me.
Is the ideal power forward that you want to pair with Luca? Is it just PJ Washington?
Well, not really. It's more of a somebody that can play the four, shoot, rebound, uh, defend. So like a PJ Washington or Aaron Gordon type of player.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, is he not like the perfect power forward to pair with Luca? Like that's kind of like when I think of power forward, like the type of forward that you want with that team or with a team that is built around Luca, it does feel like PJ Washington is kind of the ideal for. It doesn't have to be PJ Washington, but somebody with that skill set.
Yeah, I feel that. That's not priority one for me, but I feel like a strong front, a foundation. The defense has to be built from the ground up. You can kind of start with DFS and build around that, or
Mm,
because I don't know what he's gonna do, but it's gonna be interesting. But I'm sure the Lakers will probably throw money at him because Luka likes him a lot.
yeah, yeah.
But that's all I got for this episode. I'll be back with more basketball talk along with Jay and more music so soon. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Be easy.